The evening started like any other Friday night at Blue Water, one of Chicago's most expensive restaurants. The lights were dim, soft jazz played in the background, and the smell of fine food filled the air. People in fancy clothes sat at tables covered with white cloths. The sound of quiet talk and gentle laughter mixed with the clink of glasses and silverware. In the center of the restaurant sat Jack Bennett, a man who had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. At 42, Jack had built one of the biggest tech companies in America. Tonight was special. His company turned 15 years old. Jack wore a dark blue suit that fit him perfectly. His brown hair had touches of gray at the sides, and his blue eyes showed the stress of running a huge business. Sitting around Jack at the large round table was his family. His wife Susan looked beautiful in her black dress. Her blonde hair was pulled back, showing off the diamond earrings Jack had given her for their anniversary. Their children, Emma and Ryan, aged 16 and 14, sat quietly. They were used to fancy dinners, but still looked a bit bored. Jack's parents, George and Martha Bennett, completed the family circle. They were in their 70s now, but still carried themselves with pride. George had worked in a factory all his life, and Martha had been a teacher. They never got used to their son's wealth. "The company has grown so much," Jack said, raising his glass of expensive wine. "From a tiny office with just 5 people to over 2,000 employees. I couldn't have done it without my family's support." Everyone smiled and raised their glasses. They all knew how hard Jack had worked to build his company. He had started with nothing but a good idea and lots of determination. In the kitchen, away from all the wealth and celebration, Lily Adams rushed around. At 38, she was new to this job, having worked at Blue Water for only 3 months. Her brown hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her uniform was pressed perfectly. Lily's hands shook slightly as she arranged the plates for her tables. She had been on her feet for almost 10 hours already. "Table 7's main courses are ready, Lily," the head chef called out. "Don't mess this one up. That's the Bennett party." Lily nodded and carefully picked up the tray with 5 plates. Everyone who worked at Blue Water knew who Jack Bennett was. His picture was often in business magazines and sometimes on TV. Lily had seen his face many times before, but never in person. "I've got this," Lily said to herself. She had 2 other jobs besides this one. During the day, she worked as a receptionist at a small office. On weekends, she cleaned houses in the rich part of town. All of this was to support her 10-year-old son Max and to pay for her night classes at the community college. Lily wanted to become a nurse one day. She was tired, but she kept going for Max. Lily walked carefully through the busy restaurant, balancing the heavy tray. She reached the Bennett table and began placing the plates in front of each person. "The sea bass for you, sir," she said, placing a plate in front of George. "And the filet mignon for you, ma'am," she continued, serving Martha. She moved around the table, placing each dish with care. When Lily reached Jack, something strange happened. As she leaned over to place his plate, she got a good look at his face for the first time. The plate almost slipped from her hand. Lily froze. Her eyes widened, and her heart began to race. Jack looked up at her, a bit confused by her reaction. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Lily didn't answer. A flash of recognition crossed her face, followed by a look of deep emotion. Without warning, Lily placed the plate down, leaned forward, and kissed Jack softly on the cheek. The restaurant seemed to stop. Conversations died. Silverware stopped clinking. All eyes turned to the Bennett table. Susan's face turned red with anger and shock. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the silence. Emma and Ryan stared with their mouths open. George and Martha exchanged worried looks, not sure what to do. Jack himself seemed the most shocked. Of all, he sat completely still, his hand touching the spot on his cheek where Lily had kissed him. Lily leaned close to Jack's ear and whispered something. The words were so quiet that no one else could hear them. But whatever she said made all the color drain from Jack's face. His eyes grew wide, and to everyone's surprise, they began to fill with tears. "I'm sorry," Lily said in a shaky voice, stepping back from the table. I had to tell you. I promised her I would." Before anyone could stop her, Lily turned and rushed away, disappearing through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The restaurant manager, a tall man named Paul, hurried over to the table. "Mr. Bennett, I am so terribly sorry about this incident. I don't know what got into her. This has never happened before. She will be fired immediately, I assure you." But Jack wasn't listening. He sat frozen, his mind clearly somewhere else. A single tear rolled down his cheek. "Jack," Susan said, her anger now mixed with concern. "Jack, what did she say to you? Do you know that woman?" Jack slowly shook his head. "No," he said in a voice barely above a whisper. "I've never met her before." "Then why?" Susan began, but Jack cut her off. "Not her," he said. "But I knew someone a long time ago." In the kitchen, Lily leaned against the wall, her heart pounding. The other staff kept their distance, whispering among themselves. The head chef approached her with a hard look. "What were you thinking?" he demanded. "That's Jack Bennett out there. Do you have any idea who he is?" Lily nodded slowly, still trying to catch her breath. "Yes," she said. "I know exactly who he is." The restaurant manager burst through the doors. "Lily, you're fired. Get your things and leave immediately." Lily didn't argue. She untied her apron with shaking hands and walked to the staff room to get her coat and purse. She knew she had just lost a job she desperately needed, but she had made a promise to her best friend. A promise made to a dying woman. Back at the table, the Bennett family dinner was ruined. No one touched their food. Susan kept asking questions that Jack wouldn't answer. The children looked uncomfortable, not understanding what was happening. George and Martha tried to keep things calm, but the tension was too thick. "I need some air," Jack finally said, standing up abruptly. "Jack, you can't just walk away," Susan protested. "You need to explain what's going on." But Jack was already walking toward the front door of the restaurant. Outside, the cool night air hit his face. He leaned against the building and took deep breaths. The words Lily had whispered played over and over in his mind. "Olivia's daughter died last year. Her son, your grandson, is 10 years old. He has your eyes." Jack hadn't heard Olivia's name in over 20 years. His first love. The woman he had left behind to chase his dreams. The woman who had kept a secret that had just caught up with him in the most unexpected way. Inside his pocket, Jack's phone buzzed. It was a text from Susan. "We're waiting for you. The children are upset. Please come back." Jack wiped his eyes and took one more deep breath. He would go back inside. He would somehow get through this dinner. But nothing would ever be the same again. The carefully built walls around his past had just come crashing down with a simple kiss on the cheek from a stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all. The car ride home from the restaurant was filled with heavy silence. Jack drove, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Susan sat beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. In the back seat, Emma and Ryan stared out their windows, feeling the tension between their parents. Jack's mind was racing with thoughts of the past. Olivia's face kept appearing in his memory, her smile, her laugh. The last time he had seen her, 20 years ago, when they were both young and full of dreams. He had chosen his career over her. He had moved across the country for his first big job opportunity, promising to send for her later. But later never came. They had drifted apart, and eventually the calls and letters stopped. "The children are going straight to bed when we get home," Susan said, breaking the silence. Her voice was cold and controlled. Jack nodded without looking at her. When they arrived at their large lakeside mansion, Emma and Ryan quickly disappeared upstairs after mumbling goodnight. Susan stood in the entrance hall watching as Jack hung up his coat. "I want an explanation, Jack," she demanded. "Who was that woman? What did she say to you?" Jack ran his hand through his hair. "It's complicated, Susan. I need some time to think." "Think," Susan's voice rose. "Your wife and children just watched a waitress kiss you in public, and all you can say is you need time to think?" "Please," Jack said, his voice breaking slightly. "I can't talk about this right now." Before Susan could respond, Jack walked away, heading to his home office. He closed the door behind him and locked it. Susan stood outside for a moment, her hand raised to knock, but then she turned and walked away, wiping angry tears from her eyes. Inside his office, Jack sat at his desk and opened the bottom drawer. He pushed aside some files and pulled out an old wooden box. He hadn't opened it in years. Inside were memories from his life before success, before wealth, before the family he now had. Jack's hands trembled as he lifted out a stack of photographs. The first one showed a younger version of himself, maybe 20 years old, with his arm around a pretty young woman with long dark hair and bright eyes. Olivia Martin. They stood in front of a small coffee shop where they had both worked during college. Jack flipped through more photos, Olivia and him at the beach, at a concert, studying together in the library, simple times, happy times, before ambition had taken over his life. He put down the photos and picked up a small envelope. Inside was the last letter Olivia had sent, him dated a year after he had moved away. He had never opened it. Back then, he had been too busy building his career, too focused on becoming successful. He had put the letter away, telling himself he would read it later. But later became never. With a deep breath, Jack opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. Dear Jack, it began in Olivia's neat handwriting. I've tried to call you many times, but you're always busy. I understand. You're building your future. I have something important to tell you, though. I'm pregnant. It's yours, Jack. I'm having your baby. I don't expect anything from you. I know we've grown apart. But I thought you should know that you're going to be a father. I'm keeping the baby. Take care, Olivia. Jack's hand shook as he read the words. A father. He had been a father and never known it. Olivia had been pregnant when he left. And now, according to the waitress, that child, his daughter, had died last year. And there was a grandson, a 10-year-old boy who had his eyes. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. Jack put his head in his hands and sobbed. Across town in a small 2-bedroom apartment, Lily Adams kicked off her shoes and sank onto her worn couch. Her neighbor, an older woman named Carol, came out of the kitchen. How was your shift? Carol asked. Then, noticing Lily's face, she frowned. What happened? I got fired, Lily said, her voice flat. What? Why? You were doing so well there. Lily laughed without humor. I kissed a customer on the cheek. Carol's eyes widened. You did what? It was Jack Bennett. The billionaire? The tech guy? Why would you do that? Lily sighed and stood up. Is Max asleep? Carol nodded. Went to bed about an hour ago. He finished all his homework. She paused. Lily, what's going on? It's a long story, Lily said. Thanks for watching, Max. I'll see you tomorrow. After Carol left, Lily checked on her son. Max was fast asleep, his dark hair messy on the pillow. Lily sat on the edge of his bed and gently brushed his hair back. He looked so much like his mother, Lily's best friend Kate, and now that Lily had seen Jack Bennett up close, she could see him in Max too. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his jaw. Lily went to her own bedroom and pulled a shoebox from under her bed. Inside were letters, newspaper clippings, and photographs. She picked up a photo of her best friend Kate, taken about a year before she died of cancer. Kate had the same dark hair as Max, the same gentle smile. Next, she found an older photograph. It showed a young woman who looked very much like Kate but slightly older. This was Olivia, Kate's sister and Max's grandmother. Lily had never met Olivia. She had died when Kate was born, also from cancer. But Kate had kept this photo of her mother all her life. Lily picked up a newspaper clipping with Jack Bennett's picture. It was from a business magazine featuring him as Entrepreneur of the Year 5 years ago. She placed it next to the photo of Olivia. The connection was there if you knew to look for it. Kate had only learned the truth about her father when she was diagnosed with cancer herself. Her, Adoptive parents had finally told her about Olivia and showed her the few belongings Olivia had left behind. Among them was a diary mentioning Jack and a photo of them together. Before Kate died, she had made Lily promise to find Jack and tell him about Max. "He has a right to know his grandson," Kate had said, "and Max deserves to know where he comes from." Lily had spent months gathering courage to fulfill that promise. She had taken the job at Blue Water after learning that Jack often ate there. And tonight, when she had finally seen him, she couldn't find the words to explain. The kiss had been unplanned, a gesture of connection to a man who had no idea how his life was about to change. The next morning, Jack sat in his car outside a small cemetery on the edge of the city. He hadn't slept all night. He had searched online for any information about Olivia Martin and found her obituary from 18 years ago. She had died from cancer shortly after giving birth to a daughter named Catherine. The baby had been adopted by Olivia's aunt and uncle. Jack walked slowly among the gravestones until he found the one he was looking for. Olivia Martin, 1983 to 2007, beloved daughter and mother, forever in our hearts. Jack placed the flowers he had brought on the grave and knelt down on the damp grass. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know, I swear I didn't know." He stayed there for a long time, thinking about the life he might have had with Olivia, the daughter he never knew, and now the grandson he had just learned about. When he finally stood up, his decision was made. He needed to find the waitress, Lily, again. He needed to learn everything about the family he never knew he had. As Jack walked back to his car, his phone rang. It was Susan. "Where are you?" she demanded. "You left before anyone was awake. The children are asking questions I can't answer." "I'll be home soon," Jack said. "And then I'll explain everything. I promise." He ended the call and took one last look at Olivia's grave. The past couldn't be changed, but perhaps the future still could. Jack returned home to find Susan waiting for him in the living room. Her face was stern and her eyes were red from crying. She held a cup of coffee that had gone cold long ago. "The children are at my sister's house," she said. "I thought we needed to talk without them hearing." Jack nodded and sat down across from her. "Thank you, you're right." "Start talking, Jack," Susan said. "And I want the whole truth." Jack took a deep breath. "Before I met you, when I was in college, there was a girl named Olivia Martin. We were together for about 2 years. Susan's face didn't change. She had known about Olivia. Jack had mentioned her once or twice in the early days of their relationship. "When I got the job offer in California, I left her behind in Chicago. We tried to make it work long distance, but I was so focused on my career, I stopped calling as often. I stopped answering her letters." Jack's voice was filled with regret. "Eventually, we lost touch completely." "What does this have to do with that waitress?" Susan asked. Jack looked down at his hands. "Olivia was pregnant when I left. She tried to tell me, but I never opened her last letter. I found it last night, Susan. I've had it for 20 years. Unopened." Susan's face paled. "You have a child?" "Had," Jack corrected, his voice breaking. "A daughter. She died last year." Susan put her coffee cup down with shaking hands. "And you never knew about her? All these years?" Jack shook his head. "Never. Olivia died of cancer shortly after giving birth. Our daughter was adopted by Olivia's aunt and uncle." "And the waitress? How does she fit into this?" "She was my daughter's best friend, and apparently my daughter had a son. I have a 10-year-old grandson, Susan. A boy I never knew existed until last night." Susan stood up suddenly. "This is too much, Jack. How do you even know this woman is telling the truth? She could be after your money." Jack looked up at his wife. "I visited Olivia's grave this morning. She really did die 18 years ago. And I found our daughter's obituary online. Catherine Martin. She died of cancer, just like her mother." Susan paced the room, trying to process everything. "So what now? What do you plan to do about this?" "I need to meet him," Jack said simply. "My grandson. I need to know him." "And what about us? What about our family?" Susan's voice rose. Have you thought about how this will affect Emma and Ryan? Of course I have, Jack said. But this boy is family too, my flesh and blood. Susan stared at him for a long moment. I need time to think, and we need to be sure this isn't some kind of scam. I'll hire someone to verify everything, Jack agreed. But in my heart, I already know it's true. 3 days later, a thick folder sat on Jack and Susan's kitchen table. The private investigator Susan had insisted on hiring had been thorough. Inside were birth certificates, death certificates, adoption records, and DNA test results. It's all true, Jack said quietly as they looked through the papers. Catherine Martin was my daughter, and Max Adams is my grandson. Susan read through the medical reports with tears in her eyes. She fought the cancer for 2 years before she died, just like her mother. Jack nodded, his throat tight with emotion. And she never tried to contact me. She knew who I was. The investigator found searches for my name on her computer, but she never reached out. Maybe she was angry that you weren't there, Susan suggested. Or maybe she didn't want to disrupt my life, Jack said. Either way, it was her friend Lily who decided I should know about Max after Catherine died. Susan closed the folder and looked at her husband. So what happens now? I want to meet him, Jack said. And I want to help them. Lily is raising him alone. She works 3 jobs, Susan. 3 jobs to make ends meet. Susan was quiet for a moment. What about our children? What do we tell Emma and Ryan? The truth, Jack said firmly. They're old enough to understand. That evening, Jack and Susan sat down with their children in the family room. Emma, at 16, immediately sensed something serious was happening. Ryan, though only 14, picked up on the tension too. Is this about what happened at the restaurant? Emma asked. With that waitress? Jack nodded. Yes, it is. I have something important to tell you both. He explained everything as simply as he could. About Olivia, about the daughter he never knew he had, and about Max, the grandson who now lived across town with his mother's best friend. So we have a nephew? Ryan asked, looking confused. Yes, Jack said. He's 10 years old. Emma was quiet, processing the information. Does he know about us? She finally asked. I don't think so, Jack answered. At least, not yet. Are you going to bring him here? Ryan wanted to know. Is he going to live with us? No, Susan stepped in. He lives with Lily. She's his guardian. But your father wants to meet him and be part of his life. And we hope you'll both be open to meeting him too, Jack added. He's family. Emma looked at her parents carefully. Are you two okay? I mean, is everything okay with you? Susan reached for Jack's hand. We're working through it. This has been a shock for everyone. Later that night, Jack sat alone on the back porch of their house, looking out at the lake. The moon reflected on the water, creating a path of light across the dark surface. He heard the door open behind him and turned to see Susan. Mind if I join you? She asked. Jack moved over on the bench, making room for her. They sat in silence for a while. I called Lily Adams, Susan said finally. Jack looked at her in surprise. You did? When? This afternoon. I asked her to meet me for coffee tomorrow. Without me? Susan nodded. I need to meet her woman to woman, Jack. I need to understand her side of this story. Jack was quiet for a moment. Thank you, he said finally. Don't thank me yet, Susan warned. I'm still processing all of this. But that boy is innocent in all of it, and he's lost his mother. I can't ignore that. The next day, Susan sat at a small coffee shop downtown, nervously checking her watch. The door opened, and Lily walked in. She looked different out of her waitress uniform. Younger somehow in jeans and a simple blue sweater. Her hair was down around her shoulders. Lily spotted Susan and froze for a moment before walking over. Thank you for calling me, she said, sitting down across from Susan. I wasn't sure if I should try to contact you or Jack. I have questions, Susan said directly. About Catherine. About Max. Lily nodded. I'll tell you everything I know. Why did Catherine never contact Jack? She must have known who he was. Lily sighed. She found out about Jack when she was diagnosed with cancer. Her adoptive parents finally told her about Olivia and showed her some old photos and letters. Kate was angry at first, but then she was mostly sad. She didn't want to show up in Jack's life just to tell him she was dying. So she kept it a secret. Yes. But after Max was born, and especially when she knew she wasn't going to beat the cancer, she started to change her mind. She wanted Max to know his family history. She made me promise that if anything happened to her, I would find Jack and tell him about Max. And that's why you took the job at the restaurant? To find Jack? Lily nodded. I tried calling his company first, but I could never get past the secretaries. The restaurant was my last idea. I knew he ate there sometimes. And the kiss? What was that about? Susan's voice had an edge to it. Lily looked embarrassed. It wasn't planned. When I saw him up close, he looked so much like Max that it just happened. It was like seeing Kate's son all grown up. I'm sorry for how it happened. Susan studied the woman across from her. What do you want from Jack? Money? Lily's eyes flashed. I don't want his money. I've been taking care of Max just fine on my own. I only wanted Jack to know about him because Kate wanted that. Because Max deserves to know where he comes from. Susan could see the truth in Lily's eyes. This wasn't about money. It was about a promise to a dying friend and about a little boy who had lost his mother. Tell me about Max, Susan said, her voice softer now. What is he like? Lily's face lit up when she talked about Max. He's smart, really smart. His teachers say he could skip a grade, but I want him to stay with kids his own age. He loves science and building things. He can take apart a radio and put it back together, again. And he's kind. Even when other kids are mean, he's always kind. Susan listened, trying to picture this boy who was connected to her family in such an unexpected way. Does he ask about his parents? Susan asked. Lily nodded. About Kate, yes. I tell him stories about her all the time. I have photos everywhere in our apartment. I never want him to forget her. And his father? Kate was never sure who he was. She dated a few people around the time Max was conceived. She never told Max anything specific about his father. Susan took a sip of her coffee. Does Max know you're meeting me today? No, Lily said. I didn't tell him anything about Jack yet. I wanted to talk to you first. This affects your whole family. Susan appreciated Lily's consideration. She hadn't expected that. Jack wants to meet Max. He wants to be part of his life. Lily looked down at her hands. I thought he might. But I'm scared, Susan. Max has been through so much. Losing Kate broke his heart. I don't want him to get attached to Jack and then be disappointed. What do you mean? I mean, Lily struggled to find the right words. Jack is a billionaire with a perfect family. Max and I live in a small apartment. I work 3 jobs to make ends meet. We're from different worlds. What if Jack loses interest? What if it's too complicated to fit us into his life? Susan understood Lily's fears. I can't promise it won't be complicated, but I know Jack. Once he commits to something, or someone, he doesn't give up. And Max is his blood. What about you? Lily asked directly. How do you feel about all this? Susan took a deep breath. Honestly, I'm still processing it. I'm angry that Jack never knew about his daughter. I'm sad that we never got to meet her, and I'm confused about how to fit a new child into our family. She paused. But none of that is Max's fault or yours. Lily nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Thank you for saying that. Would it be okay if Jack called you? Susan asked. To arrange a meeting with Max? Yes, Lily said. But I'd like to prepare Max first. Explain who Jack is and why he wants to meet him. Of course, Susan agreed. We'll follow your lead on this. As they finished their coffee, both women felt a new understanding between them. They were different in almost every way, but they shared one important thing. They both wanted what was best for Max. That evening, Jack paced nervously in his office, waiting for Susan to return home. When he heard the front door open, he rushed to meet her. "How did it go?" he asked anxiously. Susan put down her purse and took off her coat before answering. "She's not what I expected." "What do you mean?" "She genuinely cares about Max." "This isn't about money for her, Jack. She's protective of him." Jack felt relieved. "Did she agree to let me meet him?" "Yes," Susan said, "but she wants to prepare him first. Explain who you are and why you suddenly want to be in his life." Jack nodded. "That makes sense. Did she tell you anything about him?" Susan smiled slightly. "He's smart, good at science and building things. Reminds you of anyone?" Jack's eyes widened. "Like me?" "Apparently. And Lily said he's kind, even when other kids are mean to him." Jack sat down heavily on the couch. "I need to meet him, Susan. I need to see him." Susan sat beside her husband. "You will, but we need to be careful. This isn't just about what you want or what I want. It's about what's best for Max." A week later, Lily sat with Max on their small couch. She had just told him about Jack Bennett, that he was his grandfather, his mother's father. Max looked confused. "But you said Mom didn't know who her real dad was." "She found out when she got sick," Lily explained gently. "She just didn't tell anyone except me." "And now he wants to meet me?" Max asked. "Why? He didn't care about Mom." Lily chose her words carefully. "He didn't know about your mom, Max. Your grandmother Olivia never told him she was pregnant. He just found out about your mom, and about you, when I told him at the restaurant." Max thought about this. "Is that why you got fired? Because you told him?" Lily smiled sadly. "Kind of. I didn't do it the right way." "So he's rich? Like, really rich?" "Yes, he is, but that's not what's important here." Max looked at the photo Lily had shown him, a magazine cover with Jack's picture on it. "He does kind of look like me," he admitted. "Around the eyes." Lily nodded. "I noticed that too." "Do I have to meet him?" Max asked, his voice small. "No," Lily said firmly. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but he really wants to meet you. And he has other children, a girl and a boy. They would be your aunt and uncle, even though they're not much older than you." Max's eyes widened. "That's weird," Lily laughed. "It is a little weird, isn't it? But families come in all shapes and sizes." Max was quiet for a moment. "Would Mom want me to meet him?" Lily felt tears form in her eyes. "I think she would, honey. She wanted you to know where you came from." "Okay," Max said finally. "I'll meet him." 2 days later, Jack sat nervously on a bench in Lincoln Park. Susan had offered to come with him, but he thought it would be better to meet Max alone first. He watched the children playing on the nearby playground, wondering which one might be his grandson. Then he saw them walking toward him, Lily and a small boy with dark hair. Jack's heart began to race. Even from a distance, he could see himself, in the boy's walk and the way he held his head. Jack stood up as they approached. Lily gave him a small smile. "Max, this is Jack Bennett. Jack, this is Max Adams." Jack knelt down to be at eye level with the boy. "Hello, Max. I'm very happy to meet you." Max looked at him with curious eyes that were so much like Jack's own. "You're my grandpa? My mom's dad?" Jack nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Yes, I am." "Did you know my mom?" Max asked directly. Jack shook his head sadly. "No, I didn't, and I'm very sorry about that." "It wasn't your fault," Max said. "Lily explained that you didn't know about her." Jack smiled at the boy's maturity. "That's right, but I wish I had known her. I think she must have been a wonderful person." "She was," Max said. "She was the best mom ever." Jack blinked back tears. "I'm sure she was." Lily touched Max's shoulder. "I'm going to sit over there and read my book. You two can talk for a while." Max nodded, and Lily walked away, giving them space but keeping them in sight. Lily says you're good at science and building things, Jack said. I like those things too. Max perked up. Really? I'm building a robot for the science fair. It doesn't work yet, though. Maybe I could help you with it sometime, Jack offered. You know how to build robots? I do. My company makes computers and other technology. I started by building things in my garage when I was not much older than you. Max's eyes widened. Cool. Lily tries to help me, but she says she's not good at that stuff. Jack smiled. Everyone has different talents. Lily is good at other things. Yeah, Max agreed. She's good at taking care of me and helping with my homework, and she makes the best pancakes. She seems like a wonderful person, Jack said sincerely. Max nodded. She is. She was Mom's best friend. They talked for almost an hour. Max told Jack about school, about his friends, and about the books he liked to read. Jack told Max about his own childhood, about Max's great-grandparents George and Martha, and about Emma and Ryan, who wanted to meet him soon. As they talked, Jack felt a connection growing between them, a bond that went beyond DNA. This boy was family in every sense of the word. When it was time to leave, Jack hesitated. Would it be okay if I gave you a hug, Max? Max thought about it for a moment, then nodded. Jack wrapped his arms around the small boy, holding him gently. As he did, tears filled his eyes once again. In this child, he could feel echoes of the daughter he had never known and the love he had once shared with Olivia. Can I see you again? Jack asked as they pulled apart. Max smiled. Yeah. You still need to help me with my robot. Jack laughed, wiping away his tears. It's a deal. As Max walked back to Lily, Jack watched him go with a mixture of joy and sadness. He had found a grandson, but lost a daughter he never knew existed. Life had given him a second chance at family, and this time he wouldn't let it slip away. 6 months passed quickly. The cool days of fall gave way to winter, then spring, and finally the warm days of summer arrived. During this time, Jack and Max grew closer. They spent time together every week, working on projects, visiting museums, or simply talking. Max's robot had won first prize at the science fair, thanks in part to Jack's help. Jack had been careful not to overwhelm Max with his wealth. Their time together was focused on building their relationship, not on material things. At first, Jack had wanted to shower the boy with gifts and opportunities, but Susan and Lily both advised against it. He needs a grandfather, not a blank check, Lily had said firmly. Jack knew she was right, so he held back, giving Max his time and attention instead of expensive presents. Only occasionally did he slip a new science book or building kit Max's way, unable to completely resist his desire to provide for his grandson. Today was special. It was Max's 11th birthday, and Jack and Susan had invited Lily and Max to their home for a small family celebration. It would be the first time Max would meet Emma and Ryan, along with George and Martha, Jack's parents. Are you nervous? Susan asked Jack as they set up decorations in the backyard. She hung blue and green balloons from the trees while Jack arranged chairs around the patio table. A little, Jack admitted. I want them all to get along. The kids are excited to meet him, Susan reassured him. And your parents are thrilled about having another grandson. Jack nodded. His parents had taken the news of Max surprisingly well. Martha had cried when Jack told them, mourning the granddaughter they never knew. But they had immediately embraced the idea of Max joining their family. Do you think Lily is comfortable with all this? Jack asked, gesturing around their large home with its swimming pool and manicured gardens. I don't want her to feel out of place. Susan smiled gently. Lily is stronger than you think. She's doing this for Max, not for herself. Inside the house, Emma and Ryan were helping George blow up more balloons. The doorbell rang and Jack hurried to answer it. Lily and Max stood on the doorstep. Max wore a new blue shirt and held a small backpack. Lily had on a simple summer dress. Happy birthday, Max, Jack said with a big smile. Come in. Everyone's excited to meet you. Max looked a little shy but stepped inside. Thanks for inviting us. Lily handed Jack a cake box. I made his favorite, chocolate with strawberry filling. You didn't have to do that, Jack said. We ordered a cake. I know, Lily said, but this is tradition. I've made his birthday cake every year since he was 3. Jack understood. Some traditions were important to keep. Then we'll have 2 cakes, more for everyone. He led them through the house to the backyard where the others waited. Susan came forward first, giving Max a warm smile. Happy birthday, Max. We're so glad you could come today. Max smiled back. Thank you for having me. Susan then turned to Lily. And thank you for coming. I know this must be a bit strange. Lily shook her head. It's good for Max to know his family. One by one, Jack introduced Max to everyone. Emma and Ryan were curious but friendly. George and Martha treated Max with the same warmth they showed their other grandchildren. You look just like Jack did at your age, Martha told Max, patting his cheek gently. Really? Max asked, looking at Jack with interest. I'll show you pictures later, Martha promised. I brought some old photo albums. The afternoon was filled with food, games, and laughter. Max quickly lost his shyness, especially when Ryan challenged him to a swimming race and Emma showed him her science project about plants. Lily sat with Susan and Martha, watching the children play in the pool with Jack and George. He's having a wonderful time, Martha said to Lily. Thank you for bringing him into our lives. Lily's eyes were bright with tears. Kate would be happy to see this. It's what she wanted for him. Tell us more about Catherine, Susan said gently. What was she like? Lily smiled through her tears. She was funny and brave. Even when she was sick, she never complained. And she loved Max more than anything in the world. As the women talked, Jack watched from the pool. He saw the way Lily's face lit up when she spoke about Kate, and he felt a deep sadness that he would never know his daughter. But he also felt grateful that Lily had been there for her and now for Max. After swimming, it was time for cake and presents. Max blew out the candles on both cakes, the fancy bakery one and Lily's homemade one, and made a wish that he refused to share. That would make it not come true, he explained seriously. The presents were opened next. From Emma, a set of books about famous scientists. From Ryan, a new video game they could play together. From George and Martha, a telescope for watching the stars. From Susan, an art set with paints and canvases. Jack's gift was last. It was a small box wrapped in blue paper. Max opened it carefully and found a key inside. What's this for? He asked, looking confused. It's for the workshop in the garage, Jack explained. I cleared out a space where we can work on projects together. It has all the tools and materials we might need. Max's eyes widened. Our own workshop? Really? Really, Jack confirmed. And there's something else. He handed Max an envelope. Inside was a certificate for the Jack Bennett Education Foundation. It stated that a full college scholarship had been established in the name of Catherine Martin, and that Maxwell Adams would be the first recipient when he was ready for college. Lily gasped when she saw it. Jack, that's too much. Jack shook his head. It's what I would have done for Kate if I had known about her, and the foundation will help other students too, in her name. Max didn't fully understand the scholarship, but he knew it was important from the way the adults reacted. Thank you, he said sincerely. After the cake and presents, Jack asked Lily if he could speak with her privately. They walked to a quiet corner of the garden. I want to thank you, Jack said, for everything you've done for Max, and for bringing him into my life. Lily smiled. He needs you, Jack. A boy should know where he comes from. I've been thinking, Jack said carefully, about your 3 jobs and your night classes. It must be exhausting. Lily tensed slightly. We're managing. Fine, I know you are, Jack assured her. But I'd like to help if you'll let me. Not with money, he added quickly, seeing her expression. With opportunity. What do you mean? My company has a nursing program for employees who want to continue their education, full tuition and flexible hours. You'd only need one job, not three. Lily stared at him. Are you offering me a job? Jack nodded. In our employee health center. You'd work regular hours with benefits and you'd have time for your classes and for Max. I don't know what to say, Lily said, clearly surprised. Say yes, Jack urged. Not for me, but for yourself. And for Max. Lily thought for a moment. I'll think about it, she promised. As the party wound down, Jack found himself sitting on the patio steps with Max. The boy was tired but happy, watching the fireflies that had begun to appear in the gathering dusk. Did you have a good birthday? Jack asked. Max nodded. The best one ever. I'm glad, Jack said. He hesitated, then added, I wish I had known your mom. I think I would have been very proud of her. She kept a picture of you, Max said suddenly. From a magazine. It was in her special box of important things. Jack felt his throat tighten. She did? Max nodded. Lily showed it to me. Mom wrote on it. My father. Tears filled Jack's eyes again. Thank you for telling me that. Lily says Mom wanted me to know you, Max continued. That's why she told Lily to find you after she was gone. I'm very glad she did, Jack said, putting his arm around Max's shoulders. As they sat together watching the fireflies, Jack thought about the strange path that had led to this moment. A kiss from a stranger in a restaurant had turned his world upside down, revealing painful truths but also bringing unexpected joy. He looked across the yard where Lily was talking with Susan, both women laughing at something Emma had said. His family had grown in ways he never could have imagined. The pain of learning about the daughter he had lost would always be with him, but now there was also the joy of knowing her son, his grandson. Jack squeezed Max's shoulder gently. You know, Max, families can be complicated sometimes. They can change and grow in unexpected ways. But what matters most is that we're here for each other now. Max looked up at him with those familiar eyes, Jack's own eyes. I know, he said simply, and I'm glad you're my grandpa. In that moment, Jack knew that despite all the wealth he had accumulated, all the success he had achieved, nothing was more valuable than this. The family he had lost and found again, and the love that connected them all.